Guys, welcome back. We're here with the notes for solving word problems from equations. Okay, so I've given you a couple things using the acronym CUBES to tell you how to break apart the problem. We're going to circle numbers, underline action words, that's things that tell us an equal sign or to add or to multiply. We're going to box the question so we always make sure we know that we solve it. Expand our variables just means to tell me what the letter means. If it says solve for a number and you want n to be your number, then you'll tell me n is the number. If you want to use x because that looks more algebra to you, that's fine too. Just tell me x is the number. And finally, we're going to set up the equation. So we're going to do all of this before we get to actually solve it. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at the problem number 1. So first thing I'm going to read it, 16 increased by twice a number is negative 56. What is the number? Okay? First one is a circle. I see 16. That's a number. Increased by. That means the number is going up. That to me symbolizes addition. So I'm going to underline it and put a plus. Second thing is twice. Kind of sounds like a number, but it's actually an action word. It tells me to double something. Twice a number is doubling it. That means we're going to multiply it by 2. Okay, so twice a number. A number is an action. What does a number mean? Well, that's my variable. We can use n, we can use x, we can use w. I'm going to use n for this one. So twice my number, 2 times n. The next action is the word is. If I say the answer is 15 or the answer is negative 56, is your equal sign. It always will be. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up here as a note. Is negative 56 is a number, so I circled it. My box is going to go around what is the number, because that's my question. I want to make sure that I know what I'm answering, so I know what my variable is. In this case, n is my number. All right, we are ready for the actual setup. My actual setup is pretty much just copying this problem that I've written out. 16 plus 2 times n equals negative 56. Now, I hope that you recognize that 2n and 2 times n is the same thing. I don't need the little dot right here. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm just going to put them together. All right, let's talk about solving this one. First thing, I need to kick the loner out of the party. So who's the loner? Good, it's the 16. We're going to subtract 16 from both sides. Be really careful with your negatives here, because we have 2n equals what's negative 56 minus 16. Type that in a calculator. It should be negative 72. Okay. Our next step is to kick out the best friend. We need to divide both sides by 2. That 2 cancels out, and my final answer is n equals a negative 36. All right, so we don't have any units on this problem. We don't have to stress anything about it, but my answer, what is the number? Negative 36. Okay. If you missed anything, go ahead and pause it, write it down. We're going on to number 2. All right, number 2, it says 285 students went on a field trip. 5 buses were filled and 15 students went in cars. How many students were on each bus? All right, so I'm going to start it out. 285 is a number. Went on this field trip. 5 buses were filled and 15 students went in cars. All right, so we got 5 buses. That's another number. Let me put this 285 up here. 5 buses were filled and 15, so and means extra. We're going to be adding extra. And 15 students went in cars. How many students were in each bus? So what are we solving for? That's how I'm going to know what my variable is. How many students were on each bus? We are solving for buses. What do you want your variable to be for buses? We're going to let that be b. So 5 buses and 15 students. How does the 285 fit in that? 285 students went on the field trip. Hopefully you're recognizing this, that this is your total. So I'm going to show you a couple things. First of all, make sure that we say B is the number of students on each bus. I want you to be very careful because it's not the number of buses. Okay, the number of buses is 5. All right, when it comes to writing this equation out, you have 2 different options. So put your pencil down for just a second. All right, we definitely know we have 5b plus 15, right? That's our last number. So you can say 285 equals 5b plus 15, or you can do 5b plus 15 equals 285. Okay, both of those would be the same thing. Both of those are telling you 285 is your total. I'm going to write it for this problem in this direction. I'm going to do that because 285 came first. Okay, so take a second, make sure you have everything circled, underlined, and the equation written out, and we're going to be ready to solve it. All right, let's solve this guy. First thing is kick the loner out of the party. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. I have 270 equals 5b. I need to divide by 5 on both sides. My 5's canceled just like my 15's did. And when I solve this out, we have b equals, good, 54. All right, so what does that mean? We do have units on this one. B is the number of students on each bus. So my answer would be b equals 54 students. Good. Make sure you do not say 54 buses. That's not what it stands for. Okay? All right, if you need to pause it or write anything else down, go ahead and do that now. We're moving on to number 3. All right, number 3, it says, Shana sold half of her comic books and then bought 5 more. She now has 24 comics. How many did she begin with? Okay, so how many did she begin with? What is our variable here? What are we trying to solve for? Hopefully you said comics. All right, so we're trying to solve for comics. Our C is going to be our number of comics. Oops. All right, so let's break this down. Shana sold half of her comics. What does that mean? Half. Half should mean a fraction. So you can either use the 1/2 or you can say comics divided by 2. Something in that sense. I would really prefer that you don't use the divided by sign. So if you're going to do that, let's put it over 2. Okay? So 1/2 of the comics. And then they bought 5 more. So if you're buying more, what are you doing? Hopefully the and bought is telling that you're adding more. Okay? We are going to add 5, so that's our number, 5 more. Now she has 24. So this is going to be our equals our new total, 24. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and try to make our equation. Half of the comic books. So put your pencil down for just a second. Okay, you can write this 2 ways. Half of the comic books, so like half of C, or you can write the comic books cut in half like this. Those mean the exact same thing. I'm going to write it like the first one because I want you to be able to see the 1/2. Okay, so half of C plus 5 more is equal to 24. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start by kicking out our loner. Our loner is going to be the 5, so we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. 1/2 of C is equal to 19. Okay? All right, so if I'm looking at 1/2 C, and I remind you, I'm going to make a little note over here, that that's the same as C over 2. C cut in half. What's the opposite of cutting something in half? Hopefully you're saying doubling it or multiplying it by 2. All All right, so we're going to multiply by 2 on both sides instead of dividing it in half. Okay. 2 halves makes 1 whole, so we have 1 whole C. 19 times 2 is going to give us 38. So how many comics did she begin with? She began with 38 comics. Good. If you need any more time to pause the video, go back and write any of that down. You are welcome to. Let me scroll up so you can see anything else on this screen. When you have everything, I'll meet you on the next page. All right, let's go to problem 4. It says Lynn took a taxi cab from her office to the airport. She had to pay a flat fee of $2.05 plus 90 cents per mile. The total cost was $5.65. How far did she travel? Let's start with our question. How far did she travel? What are we solving for? How far? So how many miles? I'm going to make a note over here that M is the number of miles traveled. Okay, number of miles. So let's start breaking it apart. Lynn took a taxi cab from her office to the airport. I don't know about you, but I didn't get anything important from that first sentence. So I'm going to scratch it off and stop looking at it. She had to pay a flat fee of $2.05, circle, plus, I'm going to underline it, that tells me to add. 90 cents is another number. Per mile. So 90 cents per mile. What do you think that means? Hopefully you're thinking 90 cents times M, so times every mile. Go ahead and underline per and put a multiplication dot. Per means to multiply, so per mile M. The total, so total is going to tell us that's our equal number. The total is 565. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and write our equation. We got $2.05 plus 90 cents per mile, so times M, is equal to $5.65. All right, so let's go ahead and kick out our loaner. If we do 565, subtract 205 from both sides, that gives us 90 cents times M. We got $3.60. All right, how are we going to get that M by itself? Good. Hopefully you know that you're going to divide by 90 cents on both sides. All right, go ahead and type in your calculator. $3.60 divided by 90 cents. What is your M? Perfect. It should be 4, but not for what? We need our units. 4 miles traveled. 4 miles is our final answer. Okay. If you need to copy that down, you can go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, we have 3 more questions. All right, the next 3 questions are all very similar. Couple things that you need to pay attention to is the number out front. That's going to tell you how many answers to give. And the second thing you need to be worried about is if it says odd or even or just plain consecutive. So consecutive odd, consecutive even, or regular consecutive. All right, here's how we set these up. These are not going to be cubes problems. We're not boxing and underlining. What we're doing is setting out how many different answers we need. So this problem needs 5 answers. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Problem 6 only needs 3 answers. So first, second, and third. Make this a little smaller. Problem 7 needs 4 answers. First, second, third, and fourth. Okay, go ahead and take just a second, set that up. All right, here's how the next part works. Your first number, or your first answer, no matter what, is going to be X. The first term, because you don't know what it is, but it always is going to be X. Then we can break apart and figure out our pattern. Okay, so the first one says consecutive integers. Let's break apart that word. Here's what that means. Consecutive means in order. I'm going to make a little note here. And they have to be whole numbers. So in order, integers means whole numbers. So no decimals. 5 consecutive integers whose sum means that if I add it up, it will equal 70. Okay? Well, how do I get from one number, x, to the next number? Think about it this way. If I gave you the number 5, how would you get to the number after it, 6? You would add 1. How would you get to the number after him? Well, 5, my x, would have to add 2. How would we get to the number after him? We would need to add 3. I can't say plus 1 every time because my x is always my starting number. I have to find the pattern from him. Okay? So I'm going to erase this off. So if I'm starting with x and my first number is x, my next one is x plus 1. My next one is my x plus 2. Might be 5, might be 25, we don't know. But I'm going to increase the pattern. So my fourth would be x plus 3. And finally, my fifth would be x plus 4. I'm counting integers in order. They're consecutive, and they have to be whole numbers. Okay? Now, that's a little different if I tell you I only want the odd ones. So let's start with 5 again. Let's say I started with 5, and I need to skip 6, and go to 7. So I don't want 6. I want to go to the next odd number. That means I don't want to add 1. I need to add 2. That way I can skip over 7 and go to, skip over 6 and go to 7. Same thing with 8. I don't want to go to 8. I want to skip 8 and go to 9. So that means I'm adding 4. Notice that pattern then. Skip 10, go to 11. So that means I'm adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you see how I'm skip counting now because I only want odds? I'm not saying that these are odds. I'm saying I want to land on odds. Okay? So when I'm looking at these, I should be skip counting. Plus 2 and x plus 4. Okay? All right, last one to talk about the patterns. Let's say I only want evens. Okay, so not odds anymore, I want evens. Would it still make sense to start at 5? No, 5's not an even number. I have to start with an even. So let's say I start with 10 this time. Start with 10. I want to skip 11, go to 12. Skip 13, go to 14. Skip 15, go to 16. I need 4 consecutive numbers. So we start at 10. This is my x. We're going to add plus 2 to skip, plus 4 to skip. What do you notice? Plus 6 to skip. Oh, these guys have the same pattern. Even though one's odd and one's even, since we're skip counting to go only evens or only odds, these are going to be the same pattern. Okay? Consecutive counts in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's odd or even, you have to skip count. Okay? Take a second, write any of that down that you missed, and then we're going to start setting it up. All right, so let's talk about setting up the equation. Here's how the equations work. I'm going to highlight this. Okay, we're going to add up everything that you have for like terms and set it equal to this final number. Okay? So in my first problem, I have 5 x's, so 5x plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So that should give me plus 10. And the whole thing's going to add up to 70. Let's try the next one. We're going to add up the numbers, add up the x's. So on problem 6, I have 3 x's. 2 plus 4 is 6. Total is going to be 351. Okay? Now these are not tricky equations to solve. It's just a little tricky to set them up. Okay? Last problem, number 7. We have 4 x's, so 4x. 2 plus 4 is 6. Plus 6 more is 12, so plus 12 equals 180. All right, if you need to pause it for a second and copy down what we have, that's fine. Otherwise, we're ready to solve. All right, last set of steps. We're going to solve it out. We're going to subtract 10 from both sides. That gives us 60. Divide out the 5 gives me my first answer. My first answer is 12. But how many answers do I need? You should have 5 consecutive integers. So consecutive mean count in order. We got 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. That is my 5 answers, and we are done with number 5. That's it. Okay, let's try 6. Subtract off your 6. 3x equals 345. Divide out the 3. All right, my x comes out to be 105. That's not right. Sorry, 115, my bad. 115, but we want odd numbers, so make sure you're skip counting. 117, skip again, 119. That is your answers. Those are my 3 consecutive odd numbers, okay? Last one. We're going to subtract the 12 from both sides. We have 4x equals 168. Divide out the 4. My x comes out to be 42. Now that's an even number, which is good. We want only even numbers. So remember that we're skip counting. We need 4 consecutive evens. So 44, 46, and 48. That is your final answer. Okay, we are done with the notes for 1.5. If you need to pause the screen and copy anything left, that's fine. Otherwise, we will practice next time.